Who dat family? Welcome to the Sports Coma TSC Flash Reports. This show, we're going to be breaking down the Saints offensive line room. And it's a lot to talk about on today's broadcast, so we're going to get right into it. So thank you for joining us on this one on TSC Flash Reports. And what's interesting about the Saints group this year, the Saints offensive group, is that they've done a terrific job of bringing a lot of undrafted talent. And that added to the Saints' ability to add these veterans as well. And it all starts back to the draft. Let's go back to the draft and look at one of the most impactful moves that the Saints did to their offensive line. Dead center of it was the draft with the first round draft pick this year, Cesar Ruiz. Cesar Ruiz comes in. He'll occupy the center position, in my opinion. They'll move McCoy to guard, where he will learn and turn into an all-pro guard. Trust me on that. Less responsibilities represent. McCoy will be stellar. Ruiz is a beast. I'm calling him LaCharles Bentley Jr. If anybody remember LaCharles Bentley, how great he was before the injuries occurred. This guy is going to be on that level. I mean, he's going to be terrific. He's going to continue the trend of great Saints centers that we've had and we've blessed to have some great centers over the last several years, to be honest with you, from Max Unger to Jonathan Goodwin to Jeff Fain on and back into to Charles Bentley and so on and so forth. So we've had a really good stretch of great centers here for the internal portions of our offensive lines. The reality is that Ruiz will definitely bring an edge to it. He's mean, he's aggressive, but a mean in a controlled way, not a mean out of control way. He takes offense to you trying to get to his quarterback and stand in his way. I love his play. Outside of that, the movement to McCoy to the guard position, the Saints read up and gave Andrews Pete a very large salary, a big contract, and made him one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the NFL, which goes to show you the Saints' faith in having Andrews Pete. And of course, a lot of people could look at it and say it's a part of the fact that we were dealing with the pandemic and everything was going on in the world. That's a part of it, but the Saints felt the familiarity to go back to Andrews Pete and bring him back to the fold on a multiple year deal. So what that does is look at the reworkings, keeps Andrews on the left side, puts Cesar Ruiz in the center, right guard become McCoy. Of course, Ryan Ramczyk is probably the second best offensive lineman on this team, not named Teron Armstead, who's back and who's healthy, by the way. So I absolutely love the Saints stellar line, and I expect big things from them in the future. So very interesting. Love that portion of it. Now let's go a little further into it. Now, if you look at the rest of the Saints offensive linemen, we still had Will Clapp here, Derek Kelly II, who's been on the Saints active roster for more than a few games. Nick Easton, the overpaid backup offensive lineman. Nick Easton's on this team. They just signed James Hurst. Remember, Hurst is a guy that can play guard or tackle positions. He's played in 44 games. He definitely spells the end of Nick Easton, in my opinion. It's only a matter of time. He's getting paid probably like $1 million or so, where Easton's making $5 million. So it definitely drops the axe, so to speak, down on Nick Easton. And really, I thought my mind was when they signed Patrick Omameh, who they're very familiar with, back to the team. That was a telling sign, but this definitely pushes it over the edge, where Hurst adds his addition to the team. Now, granted, he'll miss the first 4 games of the season, the first month of the season, because of the PED situation, but it's the Saints still do have a lot of depth behind them. Ethan Greenwich is another guy that was on the active roster for the entire year. He's the most unknown Saint, nobody knew, undrafted guy they really like him a lot, Greenwich. And then you go to guys like Cameron Tom, who missed all of last season due to an injury. He's back on the team, and he can play guard and center. So I really like Cameron Tom and expect him to replace with Easton, who's played guard or center. So it's really no place for Nick Easton to go. And notice my theme is I'm focusing on Nick Easton to let you know that Nick Easton days with the Saints are numbered. Now, behind that, the addition of the veterans like Patrick Omameh and James Hurst, you have undrafted guys by the bushel that was added. Big time guys. Darren Paulo is another interesting guy. They play multiple positions. Darren Paulo plays multiple positions, tackles and guard. Big Kelvin Throckmorton, a guy that plays all of the positions. He played tackle, guard, and center in some capacity for the team. George Steckler is another very talented and versatile offensive lineman. And then Adrian McGee, the big offensive lineman that the Saints picked up from LSU. So we have 2 LSU guys on the team, Will Clapp and Adrian McGee. Now, what's fascinating and interesting, these guys can play multiple positions, and they fit the Saints' versatility mindset. And I actually love it. So with the additions of how the Saints have basically built the depth of this team by adding some serious stiff competition from the undrafted guys and even veterans who are impactful. Expect a guy like James Hurst to be a main role player that backs up a guy like Teron Armstead, so Andrews Pete hadn't to go over there. So I love that move because it solidifies the veteran behind Teron Armstead. So if something happens to Teron, he misses a game or so, you can move Hurst there as opposed to moving Andrews Pete out the left guard position to left tackle. At least it gives Andrews the ability to stay where he belongs at the left guard position. It gives him that stability, something that he didn't have in his first tenure with the Saints, where he was just moved all over the place. Nobody was done that. Cameron Tom comes back representing that he's been with the Saints for a while. He was basically brung up by the Saints. He can play the guard or center position, and he's very good. Greenwich will develop even further. It's most of some of our second-year offensive undrafted guys on the offensive line as well. So a lot of great depth as we cover the entire spectrum on the offensive line group that I absolutely love. The front five, in my opinion, is set. The guys behind them, I expect guys like, barring injury, Cameron Tom, Patrick Omame, and James Hurst to be represented in that same capacity. So maybe the Saints keep 3 or 4 guys behind those starting 5. We'll just have to see. It's going to be a stiff competition nonetheless to see who makes the team behind the original 5. But we know Patrick Omame has an opportunity. We know Cameron Tom has a big, I think Cameron Tom is a lock in my opinion. Ethan Greenwich looked really good. So we'll see. They might have 2 positions open there. We'll just have to maintain and watch. So that's the great thing about having a lot of talent in the offensive lineman room. Man, it's fantastic. I absolutely love the addition of the undrafted guys this year, the undrafted guys from last year getting better, the re-signing of veteran backup guys as well to help instill the depth for the team. So thank you for joining us on this TSC breakdown on the Saints offensive lineman room. Feel free to hit subscribe if you're not a subscriber, hit the like button and hit the notification bell. Join the Great Saints Think Tank Facebook group. The link is in the description section below. Thank y'all for joining us on this episode of TSC as we break down the offensive lineman room. We'll switch to the defense coming up on our next string of videos. So thank you for joining us. Who that to you? Peace, and I'm out.
Perfect.